To complete the most significant news for this day, Y News continues. Here are the top stories. China hopes to complete talks on the Code of Conduct in the South China Sea within 3 years, securing a final deal that will keep enduring peace in the region. In a speech during ASEAN-China Summit in Singapore, Chinese Prime Minister Li Keqiang said that China acknowledges the differences among countries in the region, noting the improving atmosphere through the years as neighboring nations found a way to manage and diffuse disputes. The COC talks, launched by China and ASEAN countries, are a mechanism of equal participants, independent of external interference. Li believes that reaching agreement on the COC will not only be beneficial to China and ASEAN countries, but also conducive to free trade, which is in the interest of all sides.
And it is our hope that we can set up a time frame so that in 3 years' time, the COC will become a set of rules contributing to peace and stability in the South China Sea.
Some lawmakers believe that the age and health of former First Lady and now Ilocos Norte Representative Imelda Marcos should be considered once the Sandigan Bayan orders her arrest. This is in connection with her conviction in 7 counts of graft for using her then cabinet position to create and maintain Swiss bank accounts and foundations. House Minority Leader Danilo Suarez says Marcos's conviction should be enough and that there is no need to imprison the 89-year-old lawmaker. Bayan Muna Party List Representative Carlos Zarate, however, disagrees with Suarez's statement.
Sinabi niya, yung conviction is enough. It's shameful enough that you were convicted already. So parang sinabi niya, baka hindi na kailangan ipakulong pa ang dating unang ginang. Sa akin, 89 years old.
Pumunta ka sa National Bilibid Prison ngayon, ang daming senior citizens, no? Ang daming mga political prisoners na ang kanilang kaso ay hindi na-resolba at namatay na lang sa loob ng kulungan.
The Sandigan Bayan has temporarily suspended the issuance of a warrant of arrest against Marcos after her camp filed a motion for leave of court to avail of possible remedies for her absence. The anti-graft court is set to hear Marcos's appeal on Friday. Marcos, who has not been attending any sessions in the House of Representatives since Monday, has yet to comment on the issue. The government is looking to place El Nido in Palawan under rehabilitation due to signs of environmental degradation. El Nido is considered a tropical paradise among tourists for its white beaches and blue lagoon. During initial inspection, several establishments in the island were confirmed to have violated environmental law provisions such as overcrowding. Around 22 structures were already demolished by their respective owners due to violations in easement zone and improper waste disposal, while 50 others are still under evaluation. The DENR says they aim for Palawan to be fully environmental compliant, but they want to start with the municipalities of Coron and El Nido first. The DILG also clarifies that the entire tourist island will not be closed during the rehabilitation process.
Marami rin nag-violate ng easement, malapit masyado. In fact, clarify nga ngayon. At saka yung sewage and treatment plant nila, nabanggit rin kasi nakaka-affect sa quality ng water dyan sa dagat.
Maybe there's no need to close El Nido in its entirety, but we can do the cleanup and the rehab even without closing El Nido.
The Philippine National Police has formed a special investigation task group to look into the case of 2 local executives who were ambushed in Balawan, La Union this morning. Vice Mayor Alfred Concepcion and his security aide, Michael Ulep, were killed while his daughter, Mayor Aleli Concepcion, was wounded after unidentified gunmen fired shots at their respective vehicles. PNP Chief Oscar Albayalde says Investigators are checking if the Concepcions have been receiving death threats prior to the ambush. The task group will also investigate whether the suspects are members of a private armed group and if a political rival is possibly behind it. Malacanang has condemned the ambush and directed the PNP to probe the incident and bring the assailants to justice.
Yes, isa yan. Of course, kaya yesterday, we presented yung mga operations natin on private armed group, particularly the identified private armed group doon sa Nueva Ecija, which we said earlier that this group is also operating in the provinces of La Union and nearby provinces like in yung Cagayan, sa Region 2, and also in Bulacan and parts of Region 4A.
President Rodrigo Duterte has approved the suspension of the second tranche of fuel excise tax increases in 2019 under the Tax Reform for Acceleration and Inclusion Law. The decision to suspend the tax hikes was made amid a downtrend in oil prices, with oil companies announcing a rollback in pump prices this week. Budget Secretary Benjamin Diokno says the economic team will stick to its recommendation despite the decline in prices. The team recommended in early October the suspension of the second round of fuel excise tax hike after gasoline and diesel prices breached the $80 per barrel level. Diokno says the suspension will be subject to quarterly assessment.
I just got a communication from the Executive Secretary saying that our proposal to suspend the 2 peso additional excise tax on oil next year has been approved. All right? And we have no intention to recommend again. It cannot be, setting policies is kind of difficult, and we cannot do it at the whim and because in response.
A truckers group is set to hold a truckers holiday over worsening congestion of empty containers at the Manila Port area. The Inland Haulers and Truckers Association plans to stop their operation from November 19 until November 24, saying the congestion of empty containers in port has affected businesses and deliveries. The group warns prices of goods and the country's economy will suffer if the issue remains unsolved. Supermarket owners also believe that the truckers' holiday will affect their supplies.
Ang sitwasyon ng pair na nangyayari ngayon ay walang pagkakaiba doon sa sitwasyon noong 2014 kung saan nagkaroon tayo ng malalang port congestion. Kung ito ay hindi aaksyonan ng gobyerno, whether kami ay lumabas sa kalsada o hindi, yun yung inaasahan nating mangyayari sa mas malapit na panahon.
The fear is maring tumaas ang presyo dahil kung konti supply, lalaki ang demand, dahan-dahang lumalaki ang demand, natural, tataas ang presyo niyan, di ba?
Other Truckers Association, meanwhile, will not participate in the planned protest as this will not resolve the problem. Pag-asa warns rainy weather will be experienced in parts of the country. Leslie Longboed is at the UNTV Weather Center to tell us why. Leslie?
Yes, good evening. The low-pressure area continues to affect parts of the country. At 3 p.m., the LPA was spotted at 420 kilometers south-southeast of Puerto Princesa, Palawan. Palawan, Visayas, Northern Mindanao, and Caraga will experience scattered rains and thunderstorms due to LPA. Residents should watch out for possible flash floods and landslides, especially if they live near rivers or in low-lying areas. Meanwhile, northeast monsoon will bring isolated light rains to Batanes and Babuyan group of islands, Cordillera Administrative Region, Ilocos Region, and the rest of Cagayan Valley. While Metro Manila and the rest of the country will have fair weather. Forecast shows temperature in Metro Manila tomorrow will range from 23 to 32 degrees Celsius, 14 to 25 degrees Celsius in Baguio City, 24 to 30 degrees Celsius in Metro Cebu, and 24 to 32 degrees Celsius in Metro Davao. Tomorrow, the sun is expected to rise at 5:57 in the morning. That's weather forecast. Back to the studio.
Thank you, Leslie Ongbowen, reporting from UNTV Weather Center. And for the news abroad, here's Stephanie C. live from Hong Kong. Stephanie, good evening.
Good evening, Diego. Opponents of Brexit deal urge ministers to reject the draft Brexit deal text already agreed by the European Union and the United Kingdom. Jovic Bermas tells us why.
Britain's main opposition parties have written to Prime Minister Theresa May demanding a truly meaningful parliamentary vote on its withdrawal from the EU after the government agreed a draft Brexit text with the bloc. Ian Blackford, leader of the Scottish National Party in the British Parliament, Labour Party leader Jeremy Corbyn, and Liberal Democrat leader Vince Cable called in a joint letter for the right to put down amendments before the vote, allowing them to add conditions and influence the shape of the deal. Blackford, speaking at a London rally, demands a final say for voters on any Brexit deal.
Members of Parliament have got to have the ability to put down amendments before the vote, and that must include a people's vote.
Leading Brexiteers such as Boris Johnson and Jacob Rees-Mogg immediately criticized what has been reported to be in the draft agreement, saying it would keep the UK under EU control.
So I don't see how you can support it from a democratic point of view. I don't see how a unionist can support it, and I don't see how you can support it if you believe in the political economic freedom of this country. So if you ask my question, am I going to vote against it? The answer is yes.
Well, I hope the Cabinet will block it, and if not, I hope Parliament will block it. I think what we know of this deal is deeply unsatisfactory.
The parliamentary vote, most likely to come later this year, is gearing up to be the biggest showdown in the lengthy negotiations to leave the EU, Britain's biggest shift in foreign and trade policy in almost half a century. The government last month said any attempt to change the wording of a vote will not impact the agreement itself or prevent or delay Britain's departure. Jovic Bermas, UNTV News and Rescue, London, United Kingdom.
Forensic teams are scouring a landscape in California as the deadly Woolsey fire continues to burn and blacken acres of land. Beverly Saison tells us why.
White-clad forensic teams with cadaver dogs fanned out across a ghostly landscape strewn with ash and charred debris, searching on Tuesday for more human remains left from a blaze that killed at least 42 people in California's deadliest wildfire disaster. The intensified effort to locate victims came on the sixth day of the blaze that incinerated over 7,000 homes and other buildings, including most of the town of Paradise in the Sierra foothills of rural Butte County. County Sheriff Corey Honea said 228 people were listed as missing, and his office also was conducting well-being checks on nearly 1,300 individuals whose loved ones had reported concern for their whereabouts. By Tuesday, the killer blaze dubbed the campfire had blackened 50,500 hectares of drought-parched scrub and brush, up 8,000 acres from the night before, but crews had carved containment lines around nearly a third of the fire's expanding perimeter. More than 50,000 area residents remain under evacuation orders, and 15,500 structures were still listed as threatened by the blaze. Meanwhile, people evacuated to the relief centers and had no idea when they could return home as the rampant Woolsey fire is roaring through California. The Pierce College at Ventura has turned its gyms and parking lots into a relief center for people seeking shelters from the Woolsey fire. It once received more than 1,500 people during peak periods. People can get water, food, and simple medicines here.
When people come here, they get a cot and a blanket and a pillow and a place to sleep, restrooms, food, water, coffee, etc. And also we have a medical staff that's here to help, and emotional, psychological help as well. So it's kind of runs the gamut. Also a place for kids to hang out, so that there's like a playroom for the kids and other toys and things available to them.
Nikki Teague has been at the center for a few days. Talking about the fire, she said it was really horrible.
We didn't see the fire going down, but the smoke, it was just like a huge black cloud. I mean, it seriously looked like an atom bomb just exploding.
Teague said she was eager to return home but have no idea when it's possible to come back. Beverly Sison, UNTV News and Rescue, San Diego, California.
U.S. First Lady Melania Trump is calling for the dismissal of National Security Aide Mira Ricardel. Meanwhile, the political uncertainty in Sri Lanka heightens after a presidential decree to dissolve parliament and hold fresh elections was suspended by the High Court. Kat Dumaraos tells us why.
In USA, U.S. First Lady Melania Trump has called for a top national security aide to President Donald Trump to be fired. The First Lady feuded with Mira Ricardel, the Deputy National Security Advisor, during her tour of Africa in October, U.S. media report. The White House and the National Security Council has yet to comment. The statement came as U.S. media reported that Mr. Trump was considering a shakeup in the White House West Wing and may be considering removing White House Chief of Staff John Kelly or Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kirstjen Nielsen. As Deputy National Security Advisor, Mrs. Ricardel has served under National Security Advisor John Bolton on the powerful National Security Council for the past 7 months. In Israel, Israel carried out more strikes on the Gaza Strip on Tuesday as Palestinians kept up rocket wars on Israeli territory in the most serious exchanges of aerial fire since the 2014 war. The fighting has killed 6 Palestinians since Monday. It threatened to derail efforts by the United Nations, Egypt and Qatar to broker a long-term ceasefire and head off another major conflict in the impoverished, densely populated enclave. And in Sri Lanka, the Supreme Court on Tuesday suspended a presidential decree to dissolve parliament and hold fresh elections, heightening the country's political uncertainty. Sri Lanka has been in political turmoil since President Maithripala Sirisena fired its prime minister last month and appointed a pro-China former president in his place. Sirisena, facing international pressure, reconvened parliament on November 14, but on Friday he suddenly dissolved it and ordered a general election for January 5. But the Supreme Court, hearing petitions, delayed the latest presidential orders until December 7. It will decide then on the petitions challenging the decree. Kat Dumaraos, UNTV News and Rescue.
And those are the news from the other parts of the globe. Back to you, Diego.
Thank you, Stephanie C., live from Hong Kong. An elderly Taiwanese man gains the attention of netizens and his neighbors with his impressive setup to play a mobile game called Pokemon Go. Emil Pascual tells us why.
70-year-old Taiwanese Pokemon Go fanatic Chen San-Yuan, aka Pokemon Grandpa, has gone viral on the internet for playing Pokemon Go with 15 phones attached to his bicycle to catch them all. Chen recalls learning about the game from his grandson and has been playing the game since 2016. With his impressive setup, the septuagenarian has become an attraction in his neighborhood.
I started playing since September 14, 2016. I used one cell phone back then and kept playing and playing. After a month, it became 3 cell phones, 6 cell phones, 9 cell phones, 12 and 15 like that.
Chen can play non-stop overnight thanks to his custom-made portable battery packs. Chen says that he spends an average of $300 a month to buy virtual currencies in the game, and his gears cost more than $4,000. Chen says that he spends an average of $300 a month to buy virtual currencies in the game, and his gears cost more than $4,800. Like most pensioners in Taiwan, Chen has plenty of time to spend. So he usually rides his bike with fan-shaped mobile phone mounts attached and searches for Pokemon whenever he's out and about. Chen says that the main motivation for him to play the game now is to meet a bunch of Pokemon Go pals.
Yeah, it is to make friends. It is fun to play together, to catch Pokemon together. and get to know a group of people. Other aspects are no big deal.
Pokemon Go, jointly developed by Nintendo Co. and Niantic Incorporation in July 2016, has been the biggest hit so far among games using so-called augmented reality, where digital characters are superimposed on the real world. Amiel Pascual, UNTV News and Rescue, Taiwan.
And those are the reasons behind the news, November 14, 2018. On behalf of Rheena, Villamor-Camara, I am Angelo Castro III. Because we need to know, we will always ask why. Good evening.